Welsh history is full of national heroes, though few loom as large as Owen Glendur. His failed rebellion was one of the last large-scale attempts by the Welsh people to resist English rule. However, despite this failure, Owen Glendur remains one of Wales' most beloved heroes and a symbol of Welsh identity and independence. Beginning shortly after the Norman conquest, the newly formed Kingdom of England almost immediately turns its attention to Wales. Centuries of encroachment led to English control of parts of the country, primarily in the south and east. The Welsh people were able to resist complete annexation by the English for nearly 2 centuries. However, Welsh independence would come to an end in 1284, after a series of new invasions by King Edward I. You probably remember him from his exploits in Scotland. So, over the next 100 years or so, England consolidated its rule over Wales, building castles across the country, granting local titles to English lords, and creating new towns with English settlers. In fact, they built more castles here than anywhere else. Castles were extremely costly, a superweapon of the age, and the number of them in Wales shows just how troublesome the Welsh really could be. Much of Owen Glendur's early life is undocumented. We know he was born in 1359 in the Welsh Marches, a border region between Wales and England. His parents were Anglo-Welsh gentry. As a result, Owen was raised and educated in England while maintaining his status as a Welsh noble. While in England, Owen served 3 years in the English army, where he gained combat experience along the Scottish border. Upon completing his service in 1387, he returned to Wales, a leading lord of the Welsh Marches. England in the 1390s was filled with civil unrest caused by a growing political and social uncertainty. This unrest culminated in the deposition and later death of King Richard II. Did a weak England result in Welsh rebellion? Not quite. It's believed that the Welsh revolt was likely started not by English instability, but by a land dispute between Glendur and his neighbor, Baron Reynold Grey of Ruthin. The Baron had seized some of Glendur's lands, and Glendur took him to court, but Reynold was not prosecuted due to his close relationship with the new king, Henry IV. Owen was so offended by the crown's unwillingness to intervene in this feud that he took up arms against England. No doubt there's something of a last straw situation, but we'll never know for sure. On the 16th of September 1400, Owen Glendur was proclaimed the Prince of Wales by his small group of followers. You may be familiar with the term Prince of Wales. Originally used by the rulers of the Welsh, this title was taken by the English during their conquest of Wales. Since 1301, the title has been ceremonially bestowed on the heir apparent to the English throne. So reclaiming the title was a major symbolic act by Owen. As Owen quickly seized settlements in northern Wales, his rebellion grew in strength. During that first year, his strategy was mainly guerrilla warfare. His first targets were troops moving among English strongholds. As the English army marched across the countryside, Welsh forces harassed their supply lines without engaging directly. Later, Owen ramped up to besieging the castles of the English themselves. The first major battle of the rebellion came in June 1401 at Meneth Hethgen. Here, a Welsh force under Glendur of about 150 to 500 men used their knowledge of the local terrain to rout a much larger English and Flemish force of nearly 1,500. Not much is known about the course of the battle itself, but it's believed that Glendur was able to use his much lighter foot soldiers to outmaneuver the English in an area of hard-to-traverse marshy ground. Almost 200 English were killed, and most of the rest were captured. This pattern of smaller, agile Welsh forces defeating larger English armies would continue well into 1405. However, despite the impressive series of military victories and aid from the French, the Welsh simply could not compete with the sheer size of the English military. Beginning with the Battle of Pwllheli Melwyn, the English were able to catch the Welsh fighters in a series of engagements, preventing their escape and crushing their forces. These battles eroded Welsh manpower and caused the tide of the war to turn. Soon, foreign aid also dried up, and English economic blockades impoverished the Welsh countryside. Army morale plummeted, and history records that Owen Glendur led his final raid in 1412, after which he literally disappeared. The exact year of his death is unknown, but historians estimate it was somewhere between 1415 and 1421. Undoubtedly, his final days were spent looking over his shoulder for lurking English agents. English rule was fully returned to Wales by 1415. The Welsh people were devastated by the physical and economic destruction of the war. On top of all this, strict laws implemented by the English government severely restricted the rights of the Welsh people. For instance, the Welsh could not own land within towns, serve on juries, or hold public office. These laws remained in place for most of the 15th century. Despite the failure of the Glendur Rising, the story of Owen Glendur remains both a popular and important part of Welsh folk history. As the idea of a Welsh national identity was revived in the 19th century, this tenacious warrior was elevated from local folk hero to a semi-mythic father of the nation. Visit Wales today and you can see firsthand the places he fought, and learn for yourself why he is so beloved. Thank you for watching. I hope you found that video interesting and useful. If you have Welsh heritage, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Had you ever heard of Owen Glendur before? If not, be interested to know. Is he as famous here in the States as he is in Wales? Well, he probably should be. If you'd like to know more about Welsh traditional customs and Welsh kilting, I invite you to check out this playlist over here. In the meantime, enjoy your Welsh heritage, celebrate it every day, and have a wonderful day.